I'm thrilled to have in the studio this morning two gentlemen who've come up with a brilliant idea to get everybody in South Africa involved in something which will do the whole country the world of good. Now, we all acknowledge that one of the problems we have in South Africa is that so few people who start off with school end up making it to matric, end up getting degrees, or end up in careers. Some people fall out along the way, and unfortunately, it's the majority of people who fall out along the way. So we don't have a good track record for making sure that South Africans end up being productive and helpful and meaningful members of society. And we can't leave all these people behind. We've got to have a plan. So thank God for Ryan Silberman and Marc Lubner, because otherwise we wouldn't know what to do without you two. Look at this. You come up with a plan. Oh, I'm so happy that you've come up with this plan, and it is a brilliant plan, and I'm thrilled to be involved with you guys. Well done, Marc. Well done, Ryan. How are you?
Really good. Thank you very much. We're just as thrilled to have you engaged with us. Thank you very much.
Now, Marc, everybody wants to know, I mean, we know what Afrika Tikkun is, but for those who are not completely aware, it's 20 years old now, Afrika Tikkun.
Yeah, the organization started 20 years ago. Designed, its core values were already about helping communities that were struggling post-apartheid, dealing with a lot of lack within those
lack of resources,
lack of social leaders, lack of just very basic fundamental infrastructure, both social infrastructure and physical infrastructure.
Now, it was started by your dad, Bertie Lubner, and he began this because he felt like he wanted to do something for all these people. He wanted to give back to this country. He felt that that was a way to build the future.
Yeah, there were a group of individuals, my dad, the late Chief Rabbi Cyril Harris, a fellow by the name of Arnold Foreman and Herbie Rosenberg, and they just saw the conditions in townships. I suppose that many of us turned a blind eye because we didn't have access to the townships during the apartheid years. And then when we had access to be able to get inside, we saw what the conditions were, and there was this heart pouring, as it were, that said we've got to just do something about it. So ad hoc projects originally, but that's changed, that's morphed over the years now into an organization that focuses on developing kids, young kids, taking them from infancy through a series of life stage development processes and ultimately getting them into jobs.
And this is what Afrika Tikkun are focused on doing now, and they do it better than and different to everyone else, because your plan is to take someone from the cradle, put them in a career. In other words, to give them all the tools they need along the way to be able to make a really productive, meaningful life and existence, and to take other people with them, ultimately. That's the plan, right? To sustain.
Yeah, Gareth, thanks. I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I don't think we necessarily do it better than anybody else. I just think maybe you're right in the sense that what we do is we try to integrate the various different...
I'll be biased. You don't have
to. Okay. Well, that's what being, a friend is all about, so thanks. No, really, what we try to do is we recognize that a development of a child takes place over years. It's not a 6-month transition process that takes place once the child is matriculated quickly before they get into a job. You've got to start inculcating values. You've got to recognize that these kids growing up in the township communities are still growing up with huge lack of resources. So our organization...
Sometimes they're raised by their grandmother because there's no other parent around. Sometimes they just have such abject poverty and so many members of the family that they're responsible for, even though they're kids, that there's just, it seems, no way out, no light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm not going to be one of these guys who only reverts back to history, but, the Group Areas Act started a process where fathers and mothers did not live together as their children were growing up.
And we're still reaping the disgusting rewards of that.
So that means you've got many kids growing up in township environments with mothers who do not necessarily have the fathers living in the same abode. Mothers who go off, those that are fortunate to have work, go off to work. And these kids effectively got to fend for themselves. And in that type of environment, you can't simply apply the same sort of processes or policies of raising a child that you can, for argument's sake, in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg or the southern suburbs of Cape Town. The reality is that you've got to start giving thought to the fact that these kids need a place to go to during the course of the day when they're very young, up until the age of 5, up until the hour about 5, 6 in the evening. They need to be taught basic hygiene, basic values, basic respect, key critical element in terms of what we try to do is from a very, very early age.
Because let's be fair too, we expect people to just go to school and learn things, and schools can't also parent you, also look after your health, also make sure that you've got all the nutrition you need. I mean, we've come a long way since 1990, but we're still not at a point where people people don't. I mean, you can't go home hungry and go to school hungry the next day.
Well, you see,
You're not going to learn.
What we try to do at Tikkun is we try to actually work with the structures that are in place. We're not ignorant of those. So we work and infuse our activities alongside things like schools. So we'll do the preschool work because there aren't necessarily preschool facilities in a lot of these townships that are truly developing kids so that they are ready to go to school. But then we recognize that these kids should go to school. We go to those schools. So we try to support the school by offering extracurricular activities in our youth programs. So we do believe kids should go to school. We try to motivate them to stay in school.
How many kids has Afrika Tikkun helped?
We've got, well, that's a good question because each year we get kids in and out of the system. But at any one point in time, we've got about 10,500 kids.
God, it's unbelievable.
And directly about just short of 20,000 beneficiaries.
And you don't get any government funding.
No, that's not true. We do.
You do. You get some?
The Department of Social Development increasingly is starting to give us some money towards our early childhood development program. We've just this year been able to get funding from the department also for our youth development program.
Well, that's terrific.
It was our first breakthrough on that score over the last 2 years now. And then in the Western Cape, the Department of Health contracts us to provide primary healthcare support services. That's sending caregivers into the township environments, shack to shack, offering support in the form of medical support, in the form of psychosocial support from care workers that we employ. So and that contract's worth about 9 odd million a year to us.
Now, with 20 years history and having changed so many lives, you decided to take things up a level, and you're now going to harness the power of social media, and that's where Ryan comes in. Because Ryan's with, is it Poppy or Popeye Media?
It's Popeye.
Popeye Media,
yes.
Right. Okay, Popeye Media, you guys came up with a plan alongside Afrika Tikkun that you could harness the power of social media. You could bring everybody in because, a lot of people want to help, but they don't know how.
Sure.
So there might be people listening to us right now going, wow, it's amazing that Marc can do these things and Afrika Tikkun can do these things, but how does little old me get involved? And Ryan, where was the genesis of this idea?
So about 2 years ago, we were approached by a brand out there, and they said to us, if we had 20 million bucks and we had to pick a problem to solve in South Africa, what problem would we solve and how would we do it? And the challenge to my team was to go away, think about it, speak to people out there, see what the real problems are. And what came back was any one problem that we picked ultimately wouldn't provide a solution because how could you solve the crime problem if you didn't look at education? Likewise, how could you solve the unemployment problem without education? How could you clean up the streets without care, aftercare, nutrition?
Sure.
All of these different problems. So what the team came up with was the like change concept, and we built a little concept video to explain how it would work. And it wasn't until 2 years later when we actually met with Marc and his team that we showcased this video and we learned about all the good work that Afrika Tikkun are doing.
Just by the way, is this video on YouTube?
It is actually. It's on the Afrika Tikkun YouTube channel. It's the concept video, so go have a look. And what we found in Afrika Tikkun was, as we've discussed now, a very sustainable model to provide a real solution to create change in South Africa. And I think that when Marc and his team saw this concept video, it was basically they couldn't take no for an answer. And, we launched it last week and here we are today.
Well, listen, it's a really interesting campaign because you do have corporate partners involved in this too, and we'll mention them just now. But we're going to be involved here on cliffcentral.com because we're going to be doing I think it's 6 shows over the course of 5 shows on this schedule, so it might be 5 or 6. But we're doing 5 or 6 like change shows where our own Sia Sangweni Finn will be co-hosting with Selae, who's from Popeye Media. Selae is a very impressive woman. She was one of the people who came up with the concept and was there from the very beginning. And the two of them will host these shows along with some of the corporate partners, along with some of the ambassadors. You've got Loyiso Bala involved. You've got some very, very impressive people who are helping to push this behind the scenes. I'm very excited about it. Everybody can get involved by just liking change. Now, change is something we know we have to have happen here. We know that the faster we can make change happen, the more we can make it a positive contribution to individual lives and also to the society as a whole.
Gareth, when we saw this video footage in Ryan's office, it really hit us that We are at a pinnacle in South Africa, not too dissimilar to 20 years ago. South Africans want change. We all, each and every one of us, want something different. We want change. And so in truth, change is a brand. So the notion really that hit us was that we could, in fact, showcase Afrika Tikkun as an organization that was truly bringing about change, taking kids out of township environments where necessarily the cycle of poverty just perpetuates, and getting them actually into jobs. That's really meaningful change. That's the kind of change that I think South Africans want to see. And what we saw with this like change opportunity was that South Africans across all spectrums could in fact do something to bring about something different. We're an amazing, amazing nation of people who really genuinely care. We really want to see things better and see not only our own lot improve, but we really want to see others who don't necessarily have the same opportunities and advantages that we do. We want to see their lives change. So here's an opportunity for that to take place.
The first step is for everybody who's listening to us now, and for everybody who wants to get involved, to actually go and click on the like.
Yeah.
Now, this is easy enough to do. You go to Afrika Tikkun's website.
To afrikatikkun.org, or specifically likechange.afrikatikkun.org. And you'll see a big like change button. Click over there.
Ben, Mabale, come, let's do this. Damon, you're going to do it. Flax, you're going to do it too.
Great.
We need to do this. So we start off with that.
Good on you guys. Good on you.
And then you can either use your Facebook login to do it, or you can share it on Twitter. You've got to put the hashtag on. You've got to make sure that everybody else you know is on there. Put it on the front page, put it up there, show that you're making a difference.
Yeah. So I mean, just to extrapolate a little bit on the campaign itself, the target is to reach 1 million likes to change the lives of 5,000 kids forever.
Now listen, if Steve Hofmeyr is thinking about running politically and he's looking for 1 million likes, I'm pretty sure we can get 1 million likes for this. And with 1 million likes, we would change 5,000 kids' lives.
That's it. So, you know, the first question that's often asked is, how does actually clicking on a like button change the life of someone?
Correct. So explain to me how that works.
How the campaign works is there's a target of funds that we have, which is 35 million rand. And if you do the numbers, it equates to 35 rand per like. So we've already got, I think, 24% committed from existing partners who we'll mention just now. And every time one of us like change and signs up, it unlocks that 35 rand of funding.
So Mubs, right now you're going to give 35 rand.
Yes, I'm going to.
Right, Ben, you're going to do the same.
I sure will.
And how many likes do we need to change one child's life?
We need 200.
200 likes per child.
Yes.
Okay.
Gareth, an important part of it, though, is that what we undertake to do is you press your like button, I like change button, and we send you back notification over time of what we've done with the monies that have been raised. So we're totally transparent, completely.
So nobody's going to say, oh, well, you know, I did this and I don't know what happened.
No, you become a part of it.
Right.
You become a part of the whole group. You know, it's not just we doing it at Afrika Tikkun. My motive is that it's not Afrika Tikkun that's doing this. Quite honestly, it's we South Africans are doing this for one another. And Afrika Tikkun is just the catalyst. It's the channel that helps to make that happen.
Don't you think, Mark, so many people in South Africa spend so much time trying to blame somebody or trying to find someone else who's responsible, making it government's problem. They expect a charity to step in. But many of us do want to make a difference.
Gareth, I'm so tired, frankly, of the rhetoric in this country. We sometimes are our own worst enemies. Yeah, we've got problems, and we've got some material problems, significant problems. But let's be mature about it. Let's recognize that there are problems and that they've got to be worked on. But to actually put out negative press all the time,
it's just destructive.
It's just
We're not going anywhere.
Self-defeating. Let's let's praise that individual. You know, you made the comment earlier on, does government doesn't give money for argument's sake. Does government give us enough money? Nowhere near enough money for the type of job of work that we perform. But let's give them compliment for what monies they do give to us. Because that might encourage, in fact, more. So, you know, whether a donor presses a like change button, or whether an individual presses that like change button and chooses to give us also a pledge of another 50 rand, say, a month.
Sure.
All of that is positive stuff. Any little effort that's being made to make the world a better place, and certainly to make the lives of those who really do want to see a difference in their lives, give them the opportunity.
And why not help someone who has no other way of getting help? I mean, that to me is the most important thing here, is that these are not people who could find an alternative source of assistance, resource, health, basic health supplies, health checks, nutrition. These are some of the most obvious building blocks of any good, healthy society.
Very important, and I really like to get this concept across, if I may. What we're really doing is we're actually developing kids over a number of years such that they become informed youth who understand what career choices they have and start to develop themselves into a career path that they actually want to be in. They're not just necessarily applying for a job because it pays a wage.
Right.
So what we're doing is hopefully impacting productivity amongst the workforce that actually are fortunate enough to find those jobs. That should in fact motivate corporates. If you give thought to it, if I'm a corporate employing people, first-time job seekers, I'd like to be sure that the input that I'm getting, the labor input that I'm getting, is in fact as qualified, motivated, positive as possible.
Yeah. Not just an organism who clocks in and clocks out.
Correct. Not just somebody who puts up his hand and says, I'm here for the wage.
All right, let's give credit to all the corporate sponsors. These are people who are putting their money where your mouth is. Who do we have to give accolades to? Who are the people we need to back up here? Let's start off with KFC's Add Hope.
Amazing organization.
Right.
They really are close to what goes on the ground, and they audit us regularly, and I'm pleased to say they're very motivated. They give us a substantial sum of money towards feeding.
Mostly they're involved with hunger relief. That's their global cause.
Yeah.
Then there's EOH. They're building a prosperous South Africa through improved education and the creation of sustainable employment opportunities. Obviously, they are helping to build infrastructure and provide the internet to people. This is almost a basic human right now.
Absolutely. EOH are clearer because they've realized, they're one of those organizations that realize that if they get skilled input at an early stage of employment, they're in fact going to have a competitive advantage by having a group of staff who really have both the motivation and the intellect.
RAM hand-to-hand couriers?
RAM must be credited, in truth, for being one of the very first organizations to support Afrika Tikkun's drive into employment. And what they did is their HR department came out to our Alexander site and said, these are the specs that we want to employ against, and gave us the task of actually screening individuals.
So they've actually made jobs available.
Oh yeah,
particularly for Afrika Tikkun.
Oh yeah, and that's something all the corporates could potentially do.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, imagine if we had 10 other RAMs doing this, we could employ thousands of people.
Well, fortunately, that is an area that we are making significant progress on. We are meeting with companies and saying, instead of giving us money, give us job opportunities. One of the greatest assets this country has got that's not recognized in all the negative press about what's going on in townships is the youth of townships.
Yeah.
There's an attitude.
Smart, ambitious people, right?
These youth have been brought up on cell phones.
Streetwise, connected.
Smartphones. And they don't want handouts. They don't want to be victims.
No.
This is a generation that want just an opportunity.
Right.
And that's why there's so much pent-up frustration. So by channeling that desire to do something with your life, by giving people the opportunity to become competent and skilled in an area that suits their personality, and then finding the corporates that want that particular skill base, there's this wonderful match that takes place, and you do get an individual who then doesn't regress back into poverty again.
Love it. JSE. The JSE believe, obviously, that difference made through corporate and social investment should be sustainable, and they're getting involved because, obviously, the stock market is where people want to end up after having successful enterprises and all the rest of it. And if you can't start with good ideas and good businesses and young people with potential, then you won't have a JSE.
Correct.
So it's just them really thinking about the future for themselves.
Yeah, they represent, the listed companies across South Africa. That's the largest employment base. So again, because they're representatives of effectively large corporate listed entities, they themselves have the ability to influence this thinking in corporate environments.
Zurich Insurance Company, South Africa?
Zurich, a great group. And again, a fantastic example of an organization who woke up to the fact that they were simply not necessarily getting the number of skilled individuals going into the insurance industry. And if you give thought to it, in a township environment where you didn't necessarily have assets to insure, or material assets to insure, particularly if you were necessarily being shifted and changed between township environments.
Right, and people were moving around and people were being forcibly moved.
So how can you expect people to come out of that environment with an understanding and a passion even for the insurance industry?
No.
So Zurich have started a whole learnership initiative together with us, where they're taking in youth that we've identified who are showing competency in maths and science, and then they're giving them the opportunity to become skilled in the insurance industry, and then they select from that pool potential opportunities for permanent employment.
And Weber Wenzel are doing the same with people who have potential for becoming lawyers.
Same thing with Weber Wenzel, except one of the most humane legal firms I've actually come across. Their staff engagement with us is commendable.
Unbelievable. HSBC?
Similarly, HSBC have seen that the future really relies on competent youth going into jobs, and they're investing in that.
And then, of course, Popimedia, which is you, Ryan, and your people.
Remarkable.
So I think the example here is that each one of us in corporate South Africa or individually can get involved in the way that we know how. Because, there are all these parts of society that need assistance, whether it's food, whether it's insurance companies, whether it's social media companies, whether it's Cliff Central. I mean, you guys are an amazing partner, which you haven't mentioned yet, so thank you. But really, every one of us South Africans can help beyond the like button, whether it's sending an SMS for a 35 Rand donation, or
spreading the word to your people. And you can also do a little more if you want to. You can actually donate over and above what you're already doing with the like to help this very good initiative. Afrika Tikkun is spelled AFRIKATIKKUN. Someone asked me just now on WeChat. That's TIKKUN. And you can go to afrikatikkun.org to find out more about what they're doing. You can also like change, and you can bring about amazing things. Guys, thank you so much. Mark,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks as always.
Well done to you and what you're doing here. This is spectacular. I know you're not doing it for those things, but the fact that there are people who really are thinking about tomorrow makes me very happy, because we're still waiting for this NDP to be enacted, this National Development Program. In the meantime, people like you are getting on with it. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Thanks,
everybody's behind it. We will all like change. Go to afrikatikkun.org for more information, and press the like button. Who knows? You can go to likechange.afrikatikkun.org if you want to be more particular about it and get straight to the point. And let me know once you've done it, so that we can all start to make a difference in one small way.
Cliff, and thanks, buddy. Thanks to you. Thanks for caring the way that you do.
Oh, what a pleasure. All right, there we go. That's Marc Lubner,
guys.
Ryan Silberman. Thank you very much. afrikatikkun.org. Mubs, did you get it right? You do it?
afrikatikkun.org.
There we go. Ben, you got it right?
Yes, Gareth.
Okay, very good. Everybody seems to be on except your microphones.
Yeah, well.
All right, well, there we go. I eventually got it right. Okay, go ahead. Join up, sign up, figure out what you can do. If you want to get involved in a bigger way, you can do that too.